The Alliance for Equality of Blind Canadians is pleased to bring you training on a variety of assistive technologies. Please like and subscribe.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to TTT for June 23rd. And this is a continuation of a session we started on June the 2nd, wandering through the accessibility settings, mainly in VoiceOver, but a few others as well. And we had gotten partway through then, and we're going to continue. And I'm going to talk about commands because that is it's in VoiceOver, and when you go in there, you get various types of commands. This is actually really handy if you're looking for something. They're grouped in various categories, so you can open up all the commands. You can open up touch gestures. You can open up keyboard shortcuts, and then commands are prefixed with the VoiceOver modifier key. So that's if you're using them with a keyboard. Then there's the magic tap command and handwriting. And wait a minute, I've gotten out of there where I want to be. Oh no, I'm good. So if you want to find commands, I'm not going to go through the whole list, but this is where you can go and you can open up these various sections and it will tell you all of the commands for every one of the sections. For example, if I opened up the magic tap, it would tell me that I could press to two-finger double tap and get that magic tap. What else can I do? And the media player for the and I may as well do this now because this is one of the things I'm supposed to be talking about. Under Magic Tap, it's important if you are having trouble with your Magic Tap and it is telling you it keeps going off when you don't want it to. You can go in and switch it off it'll be under media player. And I've switched mine off and it actually still works to answer a phone call, do other things that the Magic Tap does, but it doesn't work when you're trying to stop and start something unless you're in that app, and then it will work to stop and start it. I discovered. So that's one of the important things there. What else about Braille screen input? It'll give all of your, actually the other thing about this is under your, if you're using Braille displays, it will show all of your Braille displays, and if you tap on that, it'll tell you about all the keystrokes that you use with those settings. So that's actually quite handy. And now I think, unless Marcy has something else to say about commands, I think that's all I have to say.
No, that's about it. I mean, there's so
Yeah.
many in there.
Oh yeah, yeah. You basically go and play in there is the best way to find it.
And I see my screen share went away.
Zoom whiteboards
so
button.
I'm going to try and share that again.
Zoom canvas button.
I went away as well.
Share screen button. Microphone in use. Microphone. Start broadcast button. 3. Stop broad 2. 1. You are sharing screen.
Okay. Hopefully we're back in share screen mode. All right. So the next item that I'm going to cover briefly, and I say briefly because we did a whole session on the rotor a long time ago, and if that one isn't good enough, because a few things have changed, and I'm pretty sure it's up there on our YouTube playlist somewhere. But if it's not good enough, we can do another session, not a problem. So a couple of the new things in the rotor settings in VoiceOver, there is now a search. So if you know what setting you want to add to your rotor or delete from your rotor, there's a search box at the bottom, just like there is in Mail and the other. It's the same place. It's right at the bottom. And you can search for a setting. So, and it'll bring it up and you can deal with it. So if you don't want to go, say you don't really remember where something is and you want to find it fast, you can search for it. And there is a new rotor setting, which I've just added to my rotor, and it's really neat. If you use the copy speech, the three-finger quadruple tap, if you ever want to copy something that VoiceOver says and then paste it into something, like I don't know, you hear something in an email and you want to put it into a text message and send it somewhere or to someone, you can now look at all of those last few of those that you've done and have access to them for a while. I'm not sure how long they last, probably for until you clear them. And then you can paste them. So you would turn your rotor to copy speech, and it'll give you the last few of the phrases that you've copied with that three-finger quadruple tap. And when you find the one you want, you double tap it and it'll paste it, which is really kind of neat. And there is a clear speech at the bottom of the list, so if you want to get rid of all the crap that you've copied for the last little while, you can get rid of it all at once. So that's one of the new things that have been added to the rotor recently. Okay.
It'll do the last. Sorry.
It'll remember 10 of them. Sorry,
Yeah.
I knew there was a number for that. It'll
Yeah.
remember 10 of them. Diana?
That's what I was going to say, is that it
Okay.
remembers 10, because I was afraid you were going on and I was just trying to slip it in there. Sorry about
Okay.
that.
All right. So the next thing that I'm going to talk briefly about is activities. And what this means is, and JAWS, you can do this with JAWS on the Windows side, you can do it with NVDA on the Windows side, and you've been able to do it on the Mac for a long time. And what it means is, say you have a favorite voice that you want to use with, say, Voice Dream Reader. And it doesn't matter where you were before, but every time you go into Voice Dream Reader, you want the speech to be, I don't know, Daniel. Well, you can set up an activity that as soon as you launch Voice Dream Reader, it will change the voice. And I know that's probably the wrong app to use because Voice Dream Reader has its own voices as well, but just for argument's sake, is so you can change how much punctuation you have on that voice. So say you use Word on your phone and you want all punctuation and you want Daniel. Well, you can set up an activity that will change the amount of punctuation. It'll change the voice. It can change a whole whack of other things, so that as soon as you change activities, it changes your whole profile. And you don't have to do anything. You do it once, set it up, and that's it. And you can put activities in your rotor. So if you have a few activities and you don't necessarily want them to start automatically, you can put them, they can go in your rotor and you could flick to activities and then pick the one that you want to use. So if you could use it, say if you wanted to, I don't know, change languages. You can do all sorts of things with activities. And one other thing that you can add now is you can tell VoiceOver that as soon as you go into a certain app, change it to Braille screen input. So you can now have Braille screen input automatically selected when you go into a specific app, so say messages. And you don't have to change your keyboard. You don't have to do anything. It's there. It's done. So activities are really powerful. And the only thing I would say is that they do slow down the loading of an app because it loads the app and then it loads the activity. So there can be some lag there. But they can be really powerful, and they can. It's if you want certain things to happen, it's great. You can set it up once and then forget. You don't have to do anything. And Diana, we're on to you with typing.
Okay. One question, when you're changing your activities, and
Yes.
they're in your rotor, is it like everything else where you flick up or down to
Yes.
change them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Perfect. Yes, we're going to talk about typing. And typing has confused, I think, a lot of people. Well, maybe not. Maybe it was just me originally. Um, the regular typing style that is default is standard typing, and that's where you have to, when the keyboard is up on your screen, you move your finger around the screen, find the letter you want, and you have double tap it, and that puts that letter into whatever app you're typing in. So that's standard typing. I've set my typing to touch typing. And what that means is you still slide your finger around the screen and find the letter you want. But then if you lift your finger, it puts that letter in. You don't have to double tap it. So if you get used to that typing mode, it's quicker, but it's also confusing because if you are in the habit of randomly lifting your finger off the screen, you might get random letters in your text doing that. So you do have to get used to it. I actually like it, but I know Marcy doesn't use it. So obviously it's a choice, right? We can have it however. There's another kind of typing that I didn't really understand, but it's direct touch typing. And I guess if you can kind of see the keyboard, it would work because basically, once you touch the letter, you can directly find, rather than sliding your finger around the screen, if you know where that letter is, you can touch it and it puts it in. I have never tried that, but it
I know
does.
someone who uses it.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Just one clarification. In the standard typing mode, you're not sliding your finger.
No.
You're
True.
lifting, you're literally touching your finger around, you're moving your finger around the keyboard, but not sliding it. And then when you land on the key that you want, you double tap
Double
it.
tap.
I do know someone who uses the direct touch, but she also uses predictive text. So as you hit a key, you're using the pattern that's in your head as to where the keys are, and then the predictive text helps.
Huh.
And she really likes it. But yeah, I
Well,
would
I
try
guess it
that
works
one
for
myself,
some
but
people.
not immediately.
We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Other sections that are in here are your phonetic feedback. So that means you can set it to characters and phonetics, or just characters or words, all of that kind of stuff. That's in this section. Um, I don't know where you would use modifier keys on a phone keyboard, but They would be good for if you were using a QWERTY keyboard with it. So this is under that section. Um, and now this is interesting. The the last new thing, or no, the new thing in this is called cursor output. And we know, and it was very confusing to me when we did this, because if you're moving forward by characters, your cursor is to the right of the cursor of the character or word that you're moving by. So it would be at the end. If you move left instead of right, the cursor jumps to the beginning of the word or to the left of the character, which is not what we're used to in on the computer, because basically you can delete to the left by doing backspace, or you can delete the current character by pressing delete, and that's where your focus of your cursor is. However, now you can set the your cursor to behave like it does on the computer if you want to change that. I haven't done it because I'm not, I mean, I'm used to the way it is on the phone, but it is something you could try. So that is new in this section. The other thing that might be new, no, I don't think there's anything else new, but I'll just quickly talk about things that you'll find in here. You'll find the reaction time. So that's when press a key. Mine is, I don't think I've ever changed it. It's set to 0.04 seconds. So that's when you touch it and how quickly it reacts. You can have things like arrow key quick nav that can be on or off, or single letter quick nav can be on or off. And that's all in under typing. And you can just play around in there and try some of those things. Um, uh, so I think the next thing is Marcy, or am I doing quick settings or
Yeah, yeah, you can do quick settings and reset voiceover.
oh, can I?
So
Okay, I
go
haven't
for it.
actually played in quick settings, but if I go down into it, it allows you to access voiceover settings at any time. So basically, access quick settings with a two-finger quadruple tap. So that means instead of having to go and find all the settings in voiceover and you're somewhere else on your screen, instead of going through all the settings, if this is in, you can go in with um, a two-finger quadruple tap, and that'll take you into quick settings. And um, then the other thing, there's things about cursor, other things in here like navigating images, how you do that. But the very bottom of this panel now is reset voiceover settings. And if you do this, it'll take any settings in voiceover that you have set up and put them back to factory defaults. I would hate that because I don't know what I've set up and what I haven't. However, if, for example, if you got into a situation where voiceover just wasn't behaving as it should and you couldn't, restarting your phone doesn't fix it, or you've gotten yourself into some kind of a calamity, basically, you can go in here and pick this setting, and it'll reset all of your voice settings back to their default settings. So I think that's really, we haven't talked about things like having a larger cursor, which some people with low vision might want, even though they use VoiceOver. There is how quickly the when you try and tap something, how quickly it'll react. So that's another thing that you can set under these accessibility and voiceover settings. Um, I think that's all I need to say about that.
Yeah,
So Marcy's going to talk about read and speak.
that's right. So, accessibility outside of VoiceOver has a lot of stuff. And we're just going to touch on a few things, not everything, but there is just tons of it. And the first thing that was really interesting that I found was this read and speak. So if you don't use VoiceOver on a regular basis, but you want to be able to have something read to you. So say you find an article or a website that has an article and you just want to hear it and you don't want to have to read it with your eyeballs. You can set it up so that you do a flick and it'll start reading. And there are a couple of different ways it can read. There's just the regular read and speak, which is a speech bar that used to get in the way. But now it doesn't seem to show up unless you really need it, which is great. You have to set it up. And there's now a new part of that which is almost like the reader in Safari, and it's called Accessibility Reader. And what you can do with that is you can set the font, you can set the how big it is, what type it is, and it will just read things for you. The same way that if you have the reader setting in Safari, where it'll just take the content. If you've got an article on a web page, you can just have VoiceOver just read that part of the web page. Well, that's what this accessibility reader will do. Is it will just take whatever you're reading and make it clean and just read it, which is really neat. And you can set it up so that you can launch it through either from Control Center or from the accessibility shortcut, which is that, the triple click on the home button. So if you don't use VoiceOver, this is another thing you can use, that triple click on the home or the side button. For those of us who don't have a home button, it's the side button, the power button. And that's it for that. So I'm going to turn it back to Diana.
One of the things I was going to mention about the accessibility reader is my husband uses it all the time. He doesn't use any voice with it, but because of all the ways that it plays with print and focuses in, he says, for example, the New York Times is horrible to act because the print is really small and it doesn't control very well with other settings. And he can use this accessibility
Start
reader
broadcast button.
and it will then he can customize that particular app, and he
3.
doesn't use
Stop
any
broad
of the
2.
speech, but
1.
he likes it for print. So that's just
Speaker
another
on
use
button.
for
You
it.
are sharing screen.
The few things I'm going to talk about things under physical and motor. Not very many of them, but there's a few things. The Face ID and attention is important because in there is if you get a new device, you don't want Face ID to have to actually look at it. And if you have this turned on with attention, it will make you look at the screen the camera when you're doing Face ID, which I can't do, and maybe some of you can and some not. But if you get a new device, don't forget to fix that. There's things like switch controls and voice control and eye tracking and head tracking and the side button. Uh, this is something, isn't this the one you were talking about, Marcy, that you changed? Or is that somewhere else? I couldn't.
The camera
Oh, that's the
control.
action button. That's not
Yeah,
this one. Yeah.
no, the
Okay.
camera control is the one that's in somewhere along here. I think that's where it is. It is. It's under that motor, touch and motor
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
Mm.
and if you have that camera button on your phone, you may want to turn that off because you will find that it gets in the way of things and acts on things you don't want it to. You may get lots of pictures of things you don't want, so you can turn that off. Other things in here, Apple Watch mirroring is under here. So if you have an Apple Watch, that's where you might want to go and look if you want to mirror what's on your watch. Um, and I think pretty much that's the only thing that we need to talk about in touch and motor. But if you're having dexterity issues, this is where you would go and look at and play with those settings because this is it'll make your screen act quicker or slower depending on your level of dexterity. So I think that's all to talk about under there. Um,
Yeah, I
I
think you
think
got everything that
we've
we.
kind of done it. um,
Okay, so then I've got a collection of things which I will try and remember what I found because again, I can't. My phone is doing crazy things, but that's okay. So the first one is live speech. And this, if my memory, such as it is, um, this is where you can get. Is that where personal voice is? Oh my
yeah,
goodness. Yeah, okay. So it has a few things. It has personal voice where you can get you can create an AI generated version of your voice if you need to be able to just write something and have your phone speak for you. That's where it is. It's called personal voice. The other things in this particular area of the accessibility settings is sound and name recognition. And they've just added name recognition, which means that you can get your phone to recognize sounds that it hears and your name or another name and then alert you. So if you have trouble hearing things and you need something to alert you, it can visually and tactilely through haptics alert you that it hears a certain sound like doorbell or someone knocking, and it will also listen for your name if you program it, which is kind of cool. That would be really helpful. And the other thing that we found, which I did not know, is that if you've ever thought that you have your voiceover rate set to a certain amount, let's say 60% or 65%, and Siri talks half as fast. And if it drives you nuts like it drove me nuts, you can actually go into Siri and change his or her speaking rate. Needless to say, I did that, and I'm very happy that Siri now speaks pretty much as fast as VoiceOver does for me, which is really neat. The other thing that you can now do is you can now share settings. So you can share all your accessibility settings with another device. So say you were somewhere and someone was having trouble with their device, you can share your accessibility settings to their device temporarily and then be able to use their device as if it was yours. So it would behave the same way that yours does. And you can set it up so that you can stop that sharing temporary. It can only be temporary or it can be permanent. And I think that if it works the way they say it does, then it would really make it great for someone who, is trying to help someone and they run into a problem. And rather than taking the time to go through their accessibility settings and fix them to the way they are, the way you want them or need them, you just send your settings over to that device. And it happens, from what I configured, probably using either Bluetooth or AirDrop or a combination of the two. And I think that's a great thing for them to have added. And I think that that's about it for some of the accessibility settings that we found by accident just playing around. And that's what I would encourage people to do, is just go play, try these out. See, there's a whole bunch of hearing settings, headphone settings, depending on what headphones you have or earbuds you have. There are just tons of things that you can do to personalize your phone. And the more that you do to personalize it, the better it'll work for you, because it'll be what you want and not what someone else thought you might want. So that's our romp through VoiceOver and accessibility and the different things. The camera button, by the way, if you're not sure where it is, it's definitely on the 17 Pro. I'm not sure whether it's on the regular 17. I can't remember, but it's definitely on those. For those of you who have a 17 Pro and above, probably the Max probably has it too. It's flush to the side of the phone. It's on the right-hand side and it's below the power button. And in my case, it's exactly where I pick up my phone. And so I was hitting it all the time because it's just right there. So that's it. I was very happy when I found that camera button control to disable the camera button. And the action button, which you can set in settings, can do a lot of things. The neat one that I have mine set to be like the old mute switch on the older phones. And if I press it once, it will tell me what mode I'm in right now. And then if I hold it, it will change the mode. So it doesn't accidentally silence your phone if that's what you've got it set to do.
Right. The other thing is, if you have shared your voice settings with somebody, I think it will share them until they lock or you lock their phone. I think that's how it gets rid of those settings. Like, I don't think you undo it. I think when you lock it, it goes back to however it was before. But I haven't tried it, but
no, I haven't either.
We're in an interesting thing where we can't stop the recording.
Thank you for checking out our content. To learn more about the Alliance for Equality of Blind Canadians, please visit www.blindcanadians.ca. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe.